So, just on my way to the boat after well, if you'd have seen the earlier live streams, you'd know where I'm at now. And essentially, it's an attempt to get myself calm, this video, because the pain has left me somewhat riled, and there are occasions where I know the pain has subsided a little bit, or at least it hasn't subsided. But I know I don't know. I've just had a phone call from the police because I went home. I needed to collect a catheter to try and alleviate my discomfort, and essentially I was shouting when I was there. I popped to the shops as well, and I was shouting when I was there too. And the police are aware of me, the local police. So I think they had a phone call from the shop to say, look, this gentleman was in here, this is what his appearance was, he was shouting. And they called to check up on me. They were requested to come and see me to the boat. But to be honest, I haven't eaten, and I'm in dark mode, as I said, and we are going to be speaking over sat-nav. But there's a reason why I didn't cook at home and eat at home, because the way my mental health is, I just wanted to get back to the boat whatever time that was and put a line under the day sort of thing, eat and then pass out. And the situation is, I was truthful with them. I said, look, unless there's a reason why you wish to come and see me in person, other than being able to trust what I say to you now over the phone, then I'm happy for you to come and see me. Otherwise, I would kindly request that I be allowed to be on my way back to the boat and cook dinner. They persisted just to check I was okay. Very pleasant person. It was a bit out of the ordinary to have that request, but I've never really been in this situation where I guess they didn't need to see me in the media. But the same situation as every time I speak to the police. I'm in pain. It aggravates my mental health. And it's a bit of a bewildering situation for me, but it's no different from any other time that they've seen me of late. Anyway, they were happy with what I said. I gave them my details of where the boat is. They offered the ambulance service to call me and contact me if I needed, but again, on prior experience of hospital and the ambulance service for my condition, the situation is just see it out patiently. I say patiently, but it's a very severe experience of life I'm being asked to experience. Whilst anything comes off fruition through the GP, but that is what it is. And yes, I realised from them, basically, look, you're probably a bit hysterical from the pain, Andreas. It's probably a bit of a time to just check in with you, make sure you calm down. I was a bit aware of that.
I'll keep right to continue on Western Avenue, A40.
I was aware of that before, but like I needed to calm down, but I couldn't. I had a live stream. That is my circulation.
Continue on Western Avenue.
Still no danger to anybody else. But right now my leg isn't moving in the right direction. I'm able to walk and drive. Right, moving in the correct way, you can't really settle, and if you're in pain elsewhere in your body, it's not really possible to deal with. Arguably, the focusing on the driving distracts me and allows me to focus, but I shouldn't really need to be doing something to break myself out of the pain and the discomfort. I've realised today, I'll share with you my realisation. The advice I've had all the while from my well, no, not all the while, but the advice I've had along the way from my therapist at the hospital, well, community mental health and hospital. She's the same therapist that works at both. She advised me the same thing as the consultant I saw at the private medical health hospital, and that was, don't isolate yourself. And the way I came to understand that was, where I currently am is I don't like people, but I need people. I'd love it to be able to rebuild relationships, restart new relationships, and in truth, there's always that possibility, but in the immediate, it's just not likely. On top of that, the way I have to have systemised my mental health, and this is a good exploration now to talk through, it's a case of I don't fight my mental health. In other words, it's like Aikido. Imagine martial arts. Most martial arts have some form of attack. Then you have Wing Chun, which is basically, there is no form of attack. It's almost like you only attack when someone attacks you. And then you have Aikido. And Aikido is no attack. Well, I think there are a few moves where you can attack your opponent, but essentially the whole martial art, its basis is on essentially finding a way out of your opponent's attack towards you to just divert their energy away from you. And in doing so, you sort of disorientate them a little bit. But it's the most harmonious form of martial arts that I'm aware of. Well, there is one more, but then you get into ideas of consciousness and energy. And this is helping to just distract me from effing life, talking about something spiritual. And I resonate with Aikido as a philosophy to life. I joked once upon a time I'm trained in the martial art of unconditional love. So again, it's all the time I forget what I was saying, and I'm going to have to recap the last few sentences to get back on track. So I was saying, my approach to my mental health is like a mental Aikido, because that's my approach. I don't fight my mental health. I do retaliate, but that's when I'm at my limits and I'm still training. You know, it's like, imagine you're training in Aikido and you've got up to, I don't know what the grades are for belts, but belt number 4, let's say it's pink belt. You've got up to pink belt and there's about another 20 grades to black belt. And then you're in the street and you find yourself in a fight and you've done all your Aikido and you're about to get punched and you have no Aikido move. You have an option: do I punch them or do I get punched? That's where I'm at with my mental health. I'd rather not punch it back and I'd rather not get involved with it, but it's when I'm absolutely at my limits and going to get smacked in my own face that I retaliate. But otherwise, my modus operandi is Aikido. Deflect the energy, ignore it, and imagine it doesn't exist. In terms of consciousness, that's the most effective way, because I can't remember his name, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Again, it's Japanese we're going, but Masaru Emoto is a Japanese scientist and he's done research with water. And it really is helping to distract me. He's done research with water and how water molecules, so the crystalline structure within water behaves to consciousness effectively. So in other words, it's a quite simple experiment. One day he went up to the water over a prolonged period and fired negative comments at it. Another day he went up to the water and fired positive comments to it for a prolonged period. Another section of the experiment, he went up to some water and ignored it for a prolonged period. Now the thought is in my mind, or most people's thought is, when he was hurling abuse at the water, that should have created the most repulsive crystalline structure, the most negative crystalline structure. Obviously the positive comments towards the water created the most, but in fact what created the most repulsive structures in the water was when he ignored it. So in other words, if you really want to do damage to somebody, it's not to get in a fight with them, it's to ignore them. And that's what I try to apply to my mental health, that element of consciousness. But that's not always possible. I have physical limits. And yeah, in honesty, I was quite worked up when I started this video. I had no chance of really remembering, but you know, with my memory as it is at the present, it's not helping by the physical pain. It's like it's a constant distraction, you know. And the truth is, if I wasn't driving right now and I was experiencing what I'm experiencing right this moment, and I was sitting there trying to communicate to a live stream, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Take the B467 exit towards Uxbridge, Harefield.
There's like, I don't know what it is, but with driving you have to be alert. You know, you have to. It's not just a visual thing. You have to be aware on like an energetic level of your surroundings, and I think that's what helps. And doing something physical. Doing something physical is the same thing, so doing some DIY tends to help. Or tidying up, you know, something simplistic. It doesn't have to be too hard on the body, but it just has to be something physical. And again, with tidying up, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You're making the space clearer. So, I can feel myself slowly returning. Yeah, so I was saying, that's it. I've had a consultant and a therapist advise me, don't isolate yourself. And the modus operandi towards my mental health has been Aikido. And at times I feel like certain people are responsible for suffering in my life. So in other words, for instance, there was a stranger I had to interact, and my mental health would constantly
Take the B467 exit towards Uxbridge, Harefield.
would constantly tell me that this gentleman was responsible for these elements of my mental health. So, the truth, I don't know if he was or he wasn't.
X7 exit.
Suffering in has him as the centre point. So in other words,
at the roundabout, take the third exit.
there might be a few quiet periods with the sat nav at the moment. There's going to be a few turns I'll have to make coming up. And what my mental health does is label people like this gentleman responsible for certain real pressures in my mental health.
Out onto Swakeleys Road.
So in other words, imagine really pressured periods of your life.
At the roundabout, take the first exit onto Harville Road.
Imagine very pressured periods in your life. And for whatever reason, health, just reckoning. What happens is whatever situation that was hard, even harder, because that adds an element of personal suffering to the situation. So in other words, imagine you're in pain because you've just got chest pain. It hurts, yes? But you've just got chest pain, there's nobody responsible for it. Now imagine you've just been punched in the chest. Same exact pain, but because you've actually suffered a physical act of being punched, there's a mental reality addition to the situation that ultimately shouldn't really, unless you're programmed a certain way, cause it to be more painful. It would be more painful because you have to deal with the emotional element, why you've been punched in the chest. Was it fair? Was it not fair? If it was fair, you deal with what you've done to that person in the first instance, to take on the chin why you've just been punched. And if it wasn't fair, then you've really got to deal with the emotional element. I don't know, there are many people in this world that can take physical abuse and not feel an element of not feeling sorry for yourself, but honest emotional pain as a result. I would. And it's that sort of thing, because this person is being labelled as responsible. However hard you might fight it and say, you know what, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. And you keep telling your mental health, I don't believe it. But because the pressure of your mental health is so strong, it will inflict it upon you time and time again. And you realise the best thing to do is disconnect this person from your life. Because if you do that, then if your mental health wants to say it on the next occasion, you say, well, he's not in my life anymore. How can it be him? Can you stop it now? And then you go into the next element. Well, you know, maybe if it is true, maybe if this person is doing against you or some sort of voodoo, it's best not to have them in your life. You don't really want unless you're a superhuman being. Unfortunately, you need to have a certain comfort and really survival taken care of. I don't have those things at the moment. I am constantly looking at, well, I have been looking, how can I get back to the martial art, seeing a route from where I am, but my life is pointing, that's the sort of direction I need to be aiming at. But either way, you disconnect with those people. It's the easiest thing to do. And however, the person, believe me, if you've got a mental health disorder and that mental health disorder runs your life, how much you might claim mental health will demand of you, I suppose.
Mile at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Harville Road.
It's going to demand of you is for you to be honest. How much are you willing to suffer for these people, this individual? And the truth is, in terms of what a psychologist would deem psychosis, what I'm happy to say is my belief in terms of a collective spiritual awakening, and that is the label of the collective psychosis. In other words, how the masses, the population, is awakened and they're pretending to be asleep. And within that game, there are games that can be played on those who are unawakened, like myself. That is the collective psychosis. That's what I believe. And really and truly, what's happening is, you know, I appreciate, you know, that gentleman. I looked at him and I thought, you're a stranger. I haven't really interacted with anybody in quite a while. Maybe it would be possible to have a new friend in my life. But quite quickly my mental health shut that down. And I have to accept that. This is my total approach to my mental health. I have to accept it. In honesty, mentalize my and I'm going to explore this statement in a moment in further detail, in case I might have overlooked something, but I don't believe I can compartmentalize my life. To be in that sort of relationship with anybody. In the moment, on two grounds, and that is...
Aisle at the roundabout, take the first...
That is in the moment. Sorry. That is in the moment. So in other words, when I'm seeing individuals face to face, if I'm trying to endure my mental health, that pressure, it keeps telling me this person is responsible for this element of your mental health, this person is responsible for that element of your mental health, and I try my best to ignore it and say, no, I'm just going to love and get on with this person because they're a human being that is a relationship to me in whatever which way. And when I see this person, so it's a family member, they play up, and it happens all the time for me. That's why I say I don't need to question anymore if it's psychosis for myself or if it's something more. And I'm happy to say myself, I label it as the collective psychosis. In the moment, that relationship with the person, when I'm there in front of them, they'll play up to the collective psychosis to say, look, Andreas, I'm awake and you're not. It hurts. And I'm going to antagonize our ability to communicate on a level that you once understood as communication. So you just basically... And I'm like, well, you know what? I'd actually prefer that if all communication, all interaction with people was a case of, I just turn up and sit down next to you. We don't say anything for half an hour and I leave. Feel where they are in life. That's who I am back in my youth. That's why I appreciated my friends, the group of friends I had when I was in my late teens, because most of the time I'd just rock up and sit there in quietness when I was going through my depression, speak sometimes and just listen and just be in their energy, the energy of somebody you know is your friend is
Mile, your destination will be on the left.
I'll be reflecting on this in the coming weeks, but to rebuild with people, health can really create unpleasant situations. Because of how my mental health. So we've reached the boat. I'm just going to finish off. I can put the lights on once I turn off the engine. Again. That's how in interaction with people, it feels like I know how I look, man, and it's as a result of my mental health, because I know how to make more presentable, and I appreciate when I look like pain and my mental health is scary for people. And when you're in that place, it's like people are scared, they want to punch you. So I know I've got that appearance about me. Oh, not. Chances are my phone's going to be. But essentially, I felt that like non-stop for the past few days, and I don't want sympathy from people, but it would be nice just not to have life going the other way. In other words, antagonized by people. And really and truly, I felt that to a ridiculous extent last year. That was the integration process of really changing my understanding of society and the world in terms of the collective psychosis. And where I'm left now is like, today was just like, oh, fuck it, I've had enough. It's like what's happened is the line that I would normally set, because I have to give it a go. I have to give new relationships a go. Maybe I'll find a person one day with a specific energy configuration and mental configuration that doesn't antagonize me and my mental health. I can believe that's possible. But anyway, I've got to interact with people. And my modus operandi is always to be polite where possible, where I'm not having to scream. And where I'm having to scream, to be polite where possible. And maybe one day I'll make a new friend. But hey, the point is, there's always that line, and it's like with old family members that I've had to distance myself from. It's like they would cross a line and I would just say, you know what? I have to do what's best for myself. I no longer want you as a uncle I no longer want you as an auntie when you to me what you did to me last year. I no longer want you as a sister when you do to me what you do to me every time we see each other or speak to each other. And even when we don't, what you do to me on a psychic level, voodoo level. And there was always that line where I had to acknowledge to myself, it's time enough to say goodbye to you. And really and truly, I've been contemplating travelling to Bristol because I can get there on the canals. And Bristol is like, I'd love to go back to Brighton if I'm honest. I'd love to pick up my boat, take it out of the water and put but I need not annoying the same neighbours with my screams. There would be an element, the few month period of travelling across country that it would take me. There would be an element of isolation when I get to Bristol. Like a familiarity thing, because I consider myself London. I was born in London, raised in London, lived in London other than 1 year of my life. I've travelled around London on the canals. I've lived all over the shop, worked in South East London. So to rock up at a new city, and not only that, it is the mental health services. I have known Hackney mental. It's always been based around in 7 years.